Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is News in Focus, and today we are discussing autism. And before we went for break, we were talking of diagnosis, and Dr. actually brought in some hope to parents out there that diagnosis is actually we are able to do it here in Kenya. It's all in the open. Only that we do not know exactly where to go as parents. And Rosemary, you're talking about how you got to get to know your child is autistic. How did you actually get to manage this? How did it get to affect you, and how did you get to reach out for help for your son?
Okay, thank you. When we went to see pediatricians and they recommended some tests, the first thing we're told is to find out if he hears, because he was not talking, he had no speech, whether he hears well. The test was done, he was hearing well. Then some tests to check brain activity. That also came out that his brain activity was okay. Mm-hmm. So that still did not help us because it did not solve our problems. And after a while, we struggled with him for, really not struggling, just don't know what to do with him, Mm-hmm. Because he's hyperactive, he's not learning, he's not talking, he's not behaving as what is expected of a quote-unquote a normal child. We got contact to Autism Society of Kenya. That is when Kimani was about 4 years. And when we called, I happened to talk to Felicity, mm-hmm. and I was told to take him for a kind of a testing just to confirm or to check what he is. It's to check whether what his problem is. And so when we went to the office, I remember we met a therapist who did some analysis of the boy. And even during the analysis, he could not rest, he could not sit still, but I think they had known how to deal with it. Finally, we were told he has autism. And like every parent, the first thing you ask is, what is autism? Somebody just tells you your child has autism. So the first thing is like, what is autism? Mm-hmm. And so they explained. The therapist was very good at now giving us the technical aspect of it. And so we were told that in City Primary, there's a program that has been started that helps manage. So we were told to go and just register, join the unit, so that some intervention could be taken on Kimani. Mm-hmm. So what was recommended was therapy. The doctor has talked about it, occupational therapy, and dietary intervention, where you remove what is offending the person with autism. For the case of my son, it was so obvious: wheat and wheat products, milk and milk products, sugar, and
this we are getting from a pediatrician or a nutritionist?
I would say it was now the package at City Primary. Mm-hmm. The therapist, Felicity, and all the people who are working with her. Mm-hmm. So we removed those offending foods. It was difficult because he loved Weetabix. We had to withdraw it. He loved, of course, like any child, mandazi, sugar, and you start a whole new life altogether, introducing him to foods without sugar, foods without wheat, foods without milk. Mm-hmm. It was very difficult to get him to completely forget about them. But we also noticed that when we removed them, we started seeing some gradual calming down. That was very noticeable. It was very evident. He started calming down, and when he calmed down, we realized it was easy to give him instructions. So back in school, they would give him therapy, they would give him activities of daily living, because for an autistic person, something like buttoning a shirt, tying the shoelaces, it's not obvious. They don't learn the way other children learn. And so at school, those are some of the things that they are taught. Even dressing themselves, sometimes they are not able to do it because of the challenge that they have. So at school, they were doing that. And at home, we were also trying to do the dietary intervention.
So it's evident that diet actually works Because
Yes.
Felicity mentioned it worked for your grandson and it also worked for your son.
It did.
Yes, so now I wanted to bring in the mission and the vision you had for the society. I'll get back to you as just where we've left. Maybe you could talk about Rosemary came out and brought her child, just like other parents did. But you had a vision and a mission with the 58 parents that you began with. What were some of these?
Let's really create awareness about autism, that there is autism in Kenya, and that the information is very, very scant. And also we needed to create awareness and advocacy and lobby the government to give us structures for the children. That was critical. We needed to do that.
Did you get that from the government? Or have you already gotten it?
Yes, we have. We have created a lot of awareness because it's not like when it's not like before, when people thought, you know, the child is bewitched, or when people went seeking the divine interventions, prayers and so forth. Of course, people still do that, but things are not as bad as they were before. Of course, maybe the farthest counties where we've not been able to reach, because we are a very small organization, Autism Society, and without perhaps a government structure which is support money, we rely on donor funds to give us money to be able to create awareness and etc. But what we have not been able to achieve is, after the creation of the City Primary School, which is a pilot program, an initiative of Autism Society, which has now 125 children with autism, and which has included 43 children with autism into regular classroom setting to study with the others, and has 19 young adults who are in vocational training. What we have not been able to achieve is what we had hoped 10 years back, that we would be able to replicate. The government would actually work with us to replicate the same program in at least in every county where parents will be able to take their children.
So you mean the society is just in Nairobi, not yet gone to the counties yet?
No, Autism Society is a national NGO. We go all over Kenya, but without the support of the government to start a program like the one at the City Primary School, it is not possible. We may go out there, we've gone out there, we've created awareness. If you go to Kakamega, Eldoret, Kitui, Machakos, Makueni, all over, we've created awareness, and they will tell you, yes, we know about autism, and we have a unit for children with autism, but they are mixed with children who have other disabilities, which is not what we want, because autism is so specific. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder that needs a certain kind of program like the one we have created at the City Primary School. And this is what we are saying, we need that, because that is what is working.
So what you're saying is that at least they should be, you know, a separation, because every child has different needs.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to talk about what is known as by the UN General Assembly as the developmental disorders. This is autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, epilepsy, and intellectual disability. Now, when you have a school that has programs for these children, you separate autism, because autism is one-on-one. In fact, a child with autism requires a teacher and also a caregiver to be able to manage them. You have heard from the parent how difficult it is to walk the journey with a child with autism. But children who have now intellectual disability, or they may have Down syndrome or mild epilepsy, and also may be able to be included in one class, but not be mixed with children with autism, because autism is specific.
Could you say these are some of the challenges, as you talk about some of the challenges we counted?
They are the biggest challenge in this country. Parents have nowhere to take their children because there is no placement. Yes, Daktari has said, the diagnosis now is easier, identification, because we've created awareness. We came up with our information, which we were able to spread all over in the counties. They are like educational assessment and resource centers. These are structures of the Ministry of Education, and we have given them something we call the eight-pointer process of identifying a child with autism. In 2006, we were funded by the Voluntary Service Overseas. I mean, Autism Society was funded to be able to
from abroad.
Yes. No, they are with it. They are here.
Okay.
They operate from Kenya, and they were a stakeholder in this process.
Okay.
And therefore, issues of identifying a child with autism, or even going into diagnosis, where we started a process of rapid assessment, which is what I do nowadays. It's like studying the child and so forth. So the information is out there, but there is no placement because there are no units for children with autism.
I've heard just in the clip, you talked about the exam body and the exams, whatever these children have to sit for exams, whoever marks actually gets to mark just for, like, quote unquote, for a normal child. Is that also another challenge that you have to go through, especially at the school? It is the biggest
challenge. You have heard me saying we will lose children like Gaveru and Kimani. They are in class 7 at City Primary School. You have heard that he's very good in only about 3 subjects. He's very good in mathematics. Kimani is good in sciences. Yes. Very, very good in sciences. And he's also very good in language. And earlier on, he was doing well in creative art. But you see, these are all subjects that are specific in the 844 subject. So what we are asking the government is, we demand, as parents of children with autism, a curriculum for children with autism, which will be able to test them in areas where they are able to sit for an exam, because it is their right.
As it is now, per now, what exams do they sit for? Are they the same exams they were
the 2 children, there were 2 children who sat for KCPE last year. But they were able to get about 100. One of them got 170 marks, and another one got 150. But they are out there. There is no secondary school for these children. And therefore, really, even as they sit for these exams, what are we saying? Why are they sitting for this exam? They should be, the Constitution, Article 54, I think, too, talks about really children with disability being able, should be tested in what they are able to do. And what we are saying is this: the children with autism in this country are too many. If you go by the WHO, 1% of the total population lives under the spectrum of autism. So we are saying we have close to 1 million people living with autism in this country. So I think it is their right to be given the right education, management education. So the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education are actually the duty bearers of giving these children their right.
Let's talk about a stigma. Is there stigma just like there is a meds? Do we have stigma also associated with autism?
Yes, it's very, very bad.
Maybe Rosemary could talk about if she's actually encountered that. Have you had stigma either from neighbors or family regarding as you get to bring up your son?
Yes, there's a lot of it, because these children don't behave what would call normal, what we expect normal behavior. So they can easily run into a room, find people eating or drinking, quickly grab whatever that person is eating, and they grab and they go. When you're walking with them, like personally what I encountered most when my son was young is you're walking with him on the road and then he runs off. So somebody tends to think you're very careless with your child on the road because they think you're not being very careful with them. So I learned to hold his hand very tight, which sometimes doesn't work because he also wants some independence. when they behave funny, you know, okay, in our society, I think we tend to stare. When we find somebody behaving what is not expected to be the normal thing, naturally what we do is stare, and that sometimes makes you very uncomfortable. We have had parents struggling with children who have thrown a tantrum in public, and you do not know what to do with this child because you cannot manage them. And you could even, it could be worse because you could be even in a public transport, like in a matatu, or just a place where there are people. And people look at you, they think this child, you have not brought them up well, you've not brought them up well, no wonder they are behaving like that. And at that time is very painful as a parent.
It actually traumatizes you as a parent as well.
It is, it does, because you have done your best. Sometimes you're also as bewildered as the people who are watching this unfold before you. It becomes very challenging.
Do you get other challenges apart from the stigma part of it now with the family as well, and the neighbors, and also probably with the child when you're bringing them up, how the doctor has actually told you when you go home, these are some of the things you need to do. Do you get challenges from your son and also from family?
Okay, the family, my family is very supportive. My husband is. My extended family, they support us a lot. They give us a lot of social support. But now the challenge becomes, you go to places, like social places, and because he's on diet, sometimes you're not able to get him something to eat. So it becomes challenging for us when we go to social places and we have not thought prior what he could eat. Because I know when you walk to a place where there is food, chances are that about half or 75% of what is served, he would not eat it because of the restrictions of the diet.
Does he get to actually crave for it because it's something probably you want him to stop, but he wants? Like you mentioned some of the things that he really wanted and you had to cut them out. Does he crave for them?
When he was young, he would, and he would grab things that had to do with wheat. He loved wheat a lot. He would grab pancake, he would grab mandazi. As he has grown, he has learned not to take them. But I know these days he likes gum for some reason, chewing gum. So that is something we fight with him about because it still affects him because of that sugar in the gum. You will find immediately he takes something that he's not supposed to. You definitely will know, even if he walks to a neighbor's house and eats something he's not expected to eat or he's not supposed to eat, you will definitely know because of his behavior. He becomes aggressive, he becomes violent. You can actually see something in him has changed. So he doesn't crave many times for them, but now the challenge is if you go to some place and all of you are eating something and he has nothing to eat, you will find now he's trying to feel sorry for himself. Oh, I am here, I am not eating anything, all of you are enjoying yourself. Of course, now that makes me feel bad. It makes me feel pain. So what we have learned to do is that many times when we are going out, we carry food from the house for him. It's pretty easy because he also thinks like rice is easy to pack, to cook and pack. We have learned also, when we are very free with people we are going to visit, we also tell them, by the way, we need special diet, you need to put this and this.
I wanted us to talk about this diet just a little bit, just mention it because our time is running out, so that someone, before they get to come to you, they can start practicing it before they get to a doctor and also to the society. Maybe you could talk about it because you actually read it and she learned from you. You could talk about the diet.
Well, I don't think it's really a big issue, the issue of dietary intervention. What happens is that I've told you that I am the one who does rapid assessment, which is really seeing that the child is on the right diet. When they come, they are young. So you have to technically talk to the parents about the removal of the offending substances and substitution of the food because the child is growing up. Like some of the children are very, very young. We are getting children now all the way from Kenyatta National Hospital who are 2.5 years, and they come to us for dietary intervention. The parents feel that the child should be on milk, but then it doesn't have to be mom milk because you have rice milk, which you can buy from the stores. So basically it is removal of milk and cows, goat, and even some people have started marketing camel milk. And if we are talking about...
Goat milk is also included here?
Yes. If we are talking about the substance that is bad in the milk is casein. Now, mammal milk has casein, which is a person with autism is unable to process because they have an inability to secrete digestive enzymes to work out the substance that is in the casein. So it doesn't make sense when you are telling a parent that remove cow and goat milk and substitute with camel milk. Some children are 4 years. So do they need milk? The answer is no. Or even at 2.5 years, 3.5 years, because you could use vegetables and fruits and grains that give you the calcium, what you require for the bones. So the issue of dietary intervention here is really knowing what is offending, which is basically wheat, milk and its byproducts. There's also the sugar, and there are things like tomatoes and ripe bananas, because they have materials called salicylates, which are also offensive to these people with autism, and that's what the issue is with diet. And then we've come up, Autism Society of Kenya has published a book on diet for children with autism. It is available to the parents, and they it has also recipes to make all sorts of foods for their children with autism. So it's not something difficult. Now, the children who have been on diet have made tremendous progress. The parents are happy with that. But like we said, it doesn't work by itself. You also need now an occupational therapist to carry out sensory integration to calm the child further down. And of course, go to other educational programs. It's
more of a comprehensive therapy for the child.
It's comprehensive therapy.
Now that we are winding up, I would like to start with Rosemary. Maybe you could give your last sentiments in regards to a parent out there who might also be having an autistic child, and maybe you'd like to tell them what you've learned all these years, the 13 years with your child, the challenges you've had. You want actually to talk to them. This is the time. Tell them something that they need to hear. And especially, we didn't talk about the children that are really, we've seen it on television, that are bound at home because parents don't know what to do, and they have to at least go work, and they need to leave them somewhere. What can you tell them in regards to, especially those who are thinking of binding them somewhere and lock them somewhere?
Okay. I would say this to them: there is hope for persons living with autism, more so when we have intervention. By intervention, it means when you are able to go to caregivers and people like where the institutions, where you can get help on advice as far as therapy and diet and other interventions are concerned. You need a lot of patience. You need to celebrate very small progress, small steps they make in progress. Like when my son learned to ride the bike, I was so excited because I thought he would never. He had tried and he would not. So I was so excited. And keep hoping and praying that God will also come through for them, so that as you do the intervention, as you go out seeking and looking for help, people who can assist you, that you will also be able to see the progress. I think what we would just ask of our government is, just as Felicity is saying, help create the awareness, because like those out there in the village that lock up their children, many times it's because they don't know what to do. You take your child to school, by the second day somebody has told you, please come for your child, we can't have him in our school because of the challenges he's displaying. So because those parents have to go about their duty, and also they have to look after the other children, probably that is why they're able to lock them, or that is why they result to locking them away. But there is hope, and especially if there is with the creation of the awareness, and I think the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, I think they are trying to come up with a program I believe maybe in years to come, with a lot of support from stakeholders, probably the things are going to become better. There is hope. There's a lot of hope.
Okay, thank you so much. Felicity, you could actually wind up by saying whether you've been able to manage to put that awareness to those who lock their children, and I believe you must be having some of them who have already joined you. If you could finish up by saying what you'd like to give out there to parents who lock their children especially, and for those who've already come in, are you also trying to train them to be able to also join you in the awareness?
Thank you, Miriam. The issue of a parent that has tied their 20-year-old, 20-plus-year-old in the house or locked them in the door is critical today. These parents tie their children because they are protecting them. They do not tie them because they hate them. For me, I will not address the parents, the families that have that young man in the house or young lady in the house tied to furniture. I want to focus my attention to the government. I am passionately asking the government to give us rescue centers, respite centers in every county. We should have a respite center where those young people with autism should be taken to for management, because it is lack of the structure. I mean, nobody wants to tie their own in the home. So much as sometimes I see media going out and really taking those photographs and people saying, oh, that parent should be arrested. Hello, if I wanted, it is very easy, like for these parents to kill those children, but they tie them to protect them, because majority of them are nonverbal. They will walk on the streets, they will snatch things from people, they get arrested. Even up to today, we have a lot of people with autism who are in mental institutions, like go to Mathare Mental Institution. We have a lot of people with autism. Okay. So it is what we want. Do we want them in police cells? So the families lock them up to protect them. Okay. So I am asking the government to give us structures for these people so that we can be able to release them from the homes and take them to their rightful place.
Okay, thank you so much. I believe actually the government and those who are involved with such matters have actually will be able to watch this interview and act, so that we can actually see a society that has people who are more aware of autism, and we stop the staring, like you said, because most people have all these myths, and we need to actually come out of the stigma and the myths. Well, viewers, we've come to the end of News in Focus for tonight, and I believe we've actually been, let me say, we have learned a little bit of autism, but you also need to research more on autism, especially knowing that it has not been brought very closely to us, and we've had a little bit of what challenges the society of Kenya has to go through. Maybe you could also be able to help somebody out there who is autistic, or who has a family member who has autism. And also you can have the Society of Kenya. Maybe you could tell us where you can find City Primary.
I think the issue here is finding Autism Society of Kenya offices.
Yes,
this is where parents need to start.
Where is it?
And I think we are on Thika Road, 500 meters before you get to Safari Park Hotel.
Okay.
We are in a building called the Blessed House. But we are also on phone. Okay.
So we'll be able to.
The number is 0721 544 995. I'll repeat that number. The number is 0721 544 995. If anybody got into that number, that line is open throughout 24/7. If they called and there were parents of children with autism, we will be able to guide them appropriately. Okay. City Primary is in Gara between.
They'll be able to call that number and still be able to get where City Primary is.
They will call that number for us now to be able to carry out the rapid assessment,
Okay.
and now refer them
Okay.
to the city primary
Fine.
school.
They'll be able
That's
to
the
call.
process.
I believe most of them who've had that number, they'll be able to call, and
Yes.
you can actually put them through the primary school, and also how they can go about this issue of autism. Thank you again, viewer, for joining us and being with us during this moment of discovering about autism and some of the challenges. I hope you've learned much. Thank you for watching. We're glad you're watching. I've been the presenter, Miriam Kanyuko. Do have yourself a good night.